Hey y'all, welcome back to Country Gravy. Or maybe welcome. Maybe this is your first time. Or maybe you're one of the 32 viewers who watched the last few. I, at some point, am going to stop apologizing for the way that this has worked out. I do realize it has been a longer stint than I promised between episodes. It is what it is. But yesterday, I think it was yesterday, Louisiana Women Lead, they gave me a shout out. I can't remember if it was Facebook or Twitter, but they gave me a shout out, and I thought, oh Lord, if somebody is going to promote Country Gravy, then maybe I should be a little bit more consistent with the videos I'm putting out there in the world. So accountability. Thanks, y'all. Thanks, Louisiana Women Lead. Louisiana Women Lead is a group who is promoting center-right women in politics. If you've listened to my previous videos, you might be thinking, But yeah, I'm more center than right, obviously. But they're a great group of women. I went to a training in the spring, and it was amazing. It was a training for women who are interested in running for office. They're actually holding another training here coming up in North Louisiana. So if you're interested, go check them out. Or if you know people that might be interested, if you know women, center-right women who would be interested in running for office, go check out Louisiana Women Lead. They're on Facebook, they're on Twitter, they're all over the place, so go check them out. And I appreciate them for holding me accountable. So, I told you that I was going to do a 4-part series on the 4 amendments that are going to be on your ballot on November 13th. So this is the first one. We're going to talk about amendment number 1 that's going to be on your ballot. Did you do your homework? Last time I encouraged you to go download the geauxvote app, and I also encouraged you to, I didn't just encourage you, I told you to go do it. It was a directive. That's just me. But I encouraged you to go look at PAR Louisiana's guide to those amendments. They are a nonpartisan group that researches all of these things, and they put together all that research in a very easy to consume guide. They even give you a cheat sheet for the last big election with all the amendments. I printed out my cheat sheet. I went to the polls with my cheat sheet, and it took me like 2 seconds. The people who were there running the early voting place that I went to were like looking at me like, okay, she's, clearly didn't read all those things. Maybe they thought I was just one of those people that, no. But I wasn't. I did my homework. I read up on all the research. I made informed choices, and I had a cheat sheet. So that's why I was very quick in there. Okay. Before I get started on that, you can fast forward through this if you don't want to hear me talk. But I want to say a couple things, because maybe I have a captive audience of 32 people. Okay, 1, some of my very caring friends have sent me like articles about podcasts, and one very kind person had a conversation with me about podcasts and talked about how it is so important to make sure that your aesthetics are pleasing, because that's, people are not going to want to watch when your background looks like this. Yeah, it ain't going to happen. Let me tell y'all something. This is the Summers Household Office / Playroom. When our big kids moved out of the house, we created the playroom because we had the extra space. And it looks like this so that all their rooms don't look like this. Now, most of the times, their rooms do periodically look like this. But in our minds, it was so much better to have one room that looked like this than multiple rooms that looked like this. So yeah, it's lived in. Every now and then when we have friends over, when we have kids coming over, they clean it up. And for 5 minutes, it looks beautiful. Like my husband even put up this like crate on the wall, and all their sports stuff goes in there. Like everything has a place, right? There's dress up, and there's baby dolls, and there's, pretend play. But rarely is it organized. Like this bookshelf. God help us. Can I tell you how many times that I've tried to organize that? Anyway. And there's always going to be this pile over here of stuff my husband has printed out and then has no intention of ever looking at again. There's always going to be half-done homework over here. There's always going to be gray hair up here. I mean, let's talk about those aesthetics, right? You're lucky I have eyebrows today. I mean, come on. But if you're here for aesthetics, you've come to the wrong place. If you're here to get information about local politics in the greater Baton Rouge area, keep listening. But if it's about aesthetics, if it's about great sound quality, we might have that one day. Y'all, we're getting closer. The soundboard is here. I have the right cord. My microphones are out. I know where my big fancy professional headphones are. We're getting closer. So one day that might happen. But yeah, maybe one day my husband will put together like a PVC background. I've seen that a lot, women who do MLMs and do Facebook Lives, and they have their like PVC like temporary setup with this beautiful fancy curtain so that they hide all this crap, or their kitchens or wherever they are. Maybe. But that ain't the priority today. Okay. So that's one thing I wanted to discuss. The other thing, I already went on a rant about this once today, but it's still in me, so I'm just going to tell you. School zones. I once told my husband I want to get like vinyl across the back of my windshield that says something like, "Oh, am I going too slow for you? Maybe it's because we're in an effing school zone." I know. Language. But it drives me crazy. Drives me nuts. Okay. Most of us drive the same route every single day. Maybe you're a traveling salesman and you ain't never been to Baton Rouge before. Okay. But be cautious. Be aware of your surroundings. But most of us drive the same route every day. You know where the schools are. You know where the school zones are. If you don't want to obey the school zone, if you don't want to slow down, then find a different way to go. Otherwise, please slow down. Please. And if you can't do that, at least don't be a complete jerk and honk at the people in front of you. All I could do this morning was laugh. This man... All right, I turned the corner to get on the main drag in our neighborhood. I usually stop at this stop sign and wait for everybody else to stop at this stop sign, because the people who are going down that street don't stop at the stop sign. This morning I stopped and I turned, and this guy did not stop, and so he's on my butt, number one. We get to the school zone, I slow down to 20 miles an hour, and he is losing his mind behind me. And all I could do was laugh. And the kids are like, "What is going on?" And I'm like, "Oh, the man behind me is mad because mommy slowed down for the school zone." Yeah, like he was literally like throwing his hands up and hand out the window and brr. I hope whatever was in his tumbler, y'all, I was hoping it was coffee and not alcoholic beverages, but maybe he don't need no more coffee. He don't need no caffeine. Y'all, he was losing his mind and honking, and then continued to, like, we're at a stop sign. The school is right there. You can see the school. So even if you didn't know this was a school zone, there is the school. Maybe compose yourself. Nope. Continue to honk. Honk, 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 honk. All the way until we get to the main drag, the next big intersection, and turn. He's still honking. He continued to go the same direction as me. there was another school zone coming up. And Jesus help me. Lord, I'm so sorry. Part of me was like, oh, I hope that there is a policeman or a sheriff's deputy sitting there this morning, because sometimes there are. Oh, I hope they're sitting at that next one, and I hope he goes flying, and I hope he gets pulled over, because I will wave as I pass him. Y'all bless his heart. Anyway, obey the school zones. Even if you don't care, you know, I know my rights. Like, if you don't care and you don't want to slow down, you don't want to follow the rules to keep your community safe, well, then maybe just think about yourself and how you don't want to have to pay that very expensive ticket. Anyway, okay, so your homework was to download your geauxvote app. So I'm going to pull it up on my phone and see if I can show you again your geauxvote app. I love this app. It tells you about everything that's going on your ballot, tells you when you have another election coming up. It tells you who your elected officials are. Maybe you're upset about school zones in your area and you want to send an email to your council person. Well, you can go on geauxvote and find out who your council person is, and then you can go find their contact information. Okay, but today I'm going to go to a little button that says My Ballot. All right, I am going to read to you directly from what will be on the ballot on November 13th. So I said we're going to do one per show. So we're going to go over amendment number 1. So constitutional amendment number 1. I am about to be one of those people who reads from their PowerPoint slides. I know. Roll your eyes at me. It's fine. So it is going to say, constitutional amendment number 1 authorizes streamlined electronic filing and remittance and collection of sales and use tax. And then you just click yes or no. All right, so I mentioned last time that I've heard a lot of people say this, and I just know from experience that some people see the word tax and their brain says no. Anything that has to do with taxes, they say no, because they assume that must mean that, you know, we're going to have more taxes and raising taxes. And no. Okay. This is about tax reform. So this is streamlining the collection of tax. Okay, don't take my word for it. Let me just read you the information. Do you support an amendment to authorize the legislature to provide for the streamlined electronic filing, electronic remittance, and the collection of sales and use taxes levied within the state by the state and local streamlined sales and use tax commission, and to provide for the funding, duties, and responsibilities of that commission? All right. So if you are still confused by that, then go to parlouisiana.org, and again, you can go read a very brief summary of what that means. Par Louisiana tells you what an argument for would do and what an argument against would do in a very consumable way. It's easy to understand, right? But let me just give you what I think that means, okay? There are small municipalities all over the state that collect their own taxes right now, okay? And the easiest example that comes to mind is like when you have a small business, or when you have somebody who maybe works in those different municipalities, like does like craft fairs or those kinds of things where they set up booths, okay? You know what I'm talking about? Like, let's say your aunt does jewelry and she goes to all the different craft fairs, or, you know, fall fests or springtime, whatever, blah, 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 sets up her booth in these little towns, okay? Those municipalities have to collect sales tax, right? And if you've ever been there, sometimes there's the tax man who will come to the event, or maybe the coordinator of the event takes care of that. Maybe they don't. Maybe you have to go to the local police department or the local city hall, and you have to turn in your taxes there. Okay, so this would get rid of that. It would streamline all of that, so there's one entity within the state collecting all of that. I said I wasn't going to give my opinion, but to me, y'all, this sounds like a no-brainer, right? So this would mean that everything is the same across the board, right? You don't have to figure out in each of your little towns or cities or villages or whatever who collects taxes and where and all of that. There'd be one entity that does it. Now, there are some people who were against this, and I guess this, what it makes me think of is there are some smaller municipalities that don't want anybody else's hands in their pot, right? And look, this isn't saying that those municipalities aren't going to get their money back. It just says like, look, it all comes into this and then we give it back out to where it goes. Okay? There's going to be one entity in charge of all of that. I could imagine for a business owner, this makes perfect sense, but maybe for those smaller municipalities, they want to have control of their own money, right? But that also makes me wonder, why don't you want anybody else knowing what you collect and then where it goes? You ever seen Boardwalk Empire? The bad guy was the treasurer. Just saying. Seems like a no-brainer to me. But don't listen to me. Go do your homework and decide for yourself. I'm not going to read verbatim anymore from the ballot or the ballot on GoVote, or I'm not going to read to you the Par Louisiana guide. You can go and read that for yourselves. Or if you want me to, let me know, and maybe on the future episodes of the series, maybe I will. If you don't want to do it for yourself, you can just listen to me read it. I'll be your audio book for the Par Amendment guides. I don't know. They might not like that. Anyway, so maybe if you're from a small town, you want your money handled by your local people. Maybe you don't trust the big state government to do it for you. I could see where that, yeah, you might not be so trusting. I get that. So when I was doing my homework for this, a couple of things came to mind. How savvy are we? And you know, what is your understanding of how Louisiana uses our tax dollars? You know, how savvy are you when it comes to the state budget? If you feel like you want to know more, that you need more information on those things, because all of these amendments are about your money. A couple of things I want to encourage you to do. Certainly you can just Google it, and there's a gajillion articles out there. I found a really great article. It's a Times-Picayune editorial from 2017. So it's an editorial, so obviously it's somebody's opinion. But it's a really interesting read. Now you're saying, you know, Tiffany, that's 4 years ago. But 2017 is a really good year to be looking at stuff like this. So I don't know if you remember this or not, but the legislative session of 2016, so we're talking spring of 2016, before the flood, if you were watching what was going on in the state legislature, it was like, our state is broke. Every state agency had to have all their budget put together and discuss like how you were going to cut funds. Now that happens a lot of legislative sessions anyway, especially the fiscal sessions, obviously. But this was serious. I mean, they had to cut so much money from the budget. They literally had to, you know, explain every single salary and why these people deserved a merit raise. or, why are you spending this much on the rent for your building? If you noticed that following year, a lot of state agencies moved their location. And the reason was, one of the big things they found in that legislative session was the fact that they looked at all the buildings that the state owned, and then they looked at all of the agencies that were renting space. Okay? And it just didn't make any sense. You had these vacant buildings, and then, or like some agencies who were in this building, but then they had all this empty space. Like, why not consolidate that? Why are we paying rent over here and we've got these empty buildings over here? And they really had to look at, okay, we moved it because this is closer for our, people that are in rural areas, and that makes sense. But they really had to look at return on investment and how much it was really costing them to go rent this space, or can we sell this building that we own and combine these agencies into this larger building where we have extra space. That's just one example. Another example, I'll give you a personal example. I'm no longer a state employee, so I can share this story with you. I'm going to breathe. I'm not going to go on a rant. I'm not going to be ugly. I'm just going to tell you what happened. I won't even tell you the agency I was working for. I won't name names. I'm just going to tell you what happened. I was hired in the fall of 2015. Okay. And I was put on probation for 12 months, for a year, which is pretty standard. You can do 6 months and 12 months, and that was pretty standard. So the legislative session of 16 happens. The state's going broke. They're looking for all of these ways to cut dollars, right? And all of these department heads, all of, these leaders within these state agencies want to go before committee and say that, oh, look at all these things that we're doing, and we're going to be able to cut dollars this way, and oh, look at how great this is, and we're not decreasing the services to the public, and we're not even letting people go. We don't even have to lay off our employees. That was semantics, because let me tell you what happened in the agency where I work and some other agencies across the state. Those probationary employees, our probation went from 12 months to 24 months. Okay? And then you know what happened at the end of that 24-month period? We were let go. We were laid off. No, on paper, they just didn't make us permanent. So that wasn't really a layoff, right? It was semantics. They were letting people go. And some of these agencies, maybe they could do that. But in our agency, where I had direct contact with the public, and me leaving meant that my caseload got passed out to everybody else, increased what was going on with them. And in our agency, there was a decrease in the services provided. Long story. On paper, yes, we were still providing services, but anything can be spun, So the secretary of that agency could sit in committee and say she wasn't laying anybody off. But I know a very good advocate who sat in a committee, another meeting, and stood up and told them, it's semantics. Y'all don't need to be saying that, because that's not exactly what happened. And it's not. It's not. So use whatever words you want, but people didn't have a job. Just saying. Anyway, so you want to know more. This is a really good article. There's plenty of information out there. Y'all, there are people who follow the legislative session and on Twitter. If you look at the hashtag LawLeg and follow some of those people who were putting out that hashtag that gives you some information. Her name escaped, Julie O'Donoghue. Oh, I'm going to have to correct that if I'm wrong. But she wrote an amazing article about the winners and losers after the last fiscal session that literally told you, was it 2020 or 2021? I think it was 2021. But told you exactly who the winners and losers were. Where was the money going? So, I mean, that's something else to think about. So is it an income problem or is it an outflow problem? Is there a problem with where we spend our money? We're going to get into this with other amendments, so maybe I won't talk about it right now. But there are a lot of tax breaks out there that happen. There's a lot of dedicated funds that maybe shouldn't be. There's a lot of things that don't get taxed. What, just because it was one of those, I scratch your back, you scratch mine kind of things a century ago or whatever. Give me a break. I'm over it. Anyway, educate yourself on those things, and maybe we'll do maybe that's a good topic for other episodes. Maybe. We'll see. You let me know. Let me know what you want to hear about. Let me know what you're interested in. Let me know if you want me to be the audio book for the PAR Louisiana Guide to the Amendments. Let me know. And then in follow-up episodes, maybe we'll do that. Anyway, thank you, Louisiana Women Lead, for the shout out and for holding me accountable. If you guys have more questions, then just send me a comment, write a comment under the video, and I promise I will respond. You may not like the response, but I promise I'll respond. All right, guys, this has been Country Gravy. Thank you so much for listening and paying attention. And I really want to thank you if you actually did your homework. Bye-bye.